Hey everyone, today we're focusing on one of the most essential areas of fitness and functional movement, the core. You probably heard a lot about core training in fitness circles, but what does it really mean and why is it so crucial? By the end of this video, you'll understand what your core actually is, why it matters beyond just having a six-pack, and how to properly engage it with a few effective exercises. Let's dive right in. First, let's clarify what the core actually is. A lot of people think of the core as just the abs, but it's so much more than that. Your core is actually everything minus your arms and your legs. The core consists of muscles on the front of your body and muscles on the back of your body. Each core muscle has an antagonistic counterpart. This includes the rectus abdominis, which is what we traditionally think of as the six-pack. Its antagonist is the longissimus. This pair of muscles gives function in the sagittal plane, which is movement forward and backward. The external oblique, which runs in the direction of putting your hands in your pocket, and its antagonist is the transversus spinalis muscles. This group of muscles gives function in the transverse plane and allows for rotation. The internal oblique, which runs in the opposite direction of the external oblique and is deeper. Its antagonist is the iliocostalis. This group of muscles function in the frontal plane and allows for side bending movement. The transverse abdominis, which is the deepest of the core muscles, it gives stiffness to the spine. Remember Paul Chek's famous saying, "You can't fire a cannon from a canoe." It wraps around your abdomen, attaches to the thoracolumbar fascia, and gives stiffness to the spine. Having a strong core is about so much more than just looking toned or having a six-pack. Here's why core strength is so essential. Number one, stability and balance. Your core helps stabilize your body, which improves balance and coordination. A strong core can make everyday tasks easier, from bending down to pick something up to simply standing upright with good posture. Number two, reduce the risk of injury. A weak core can lead to a higher risk of injury, especially in the lower back. When your core is strong, it acts as a protective shield for your spine and helps prevent back strain. Number three, improved athletic performance. Whether you're a runner, a golfer, a dancer, and just enjoy lifting weights, a strong core will improve your performance in almost any physical activity. It's the foundation of strength and power and most movements. Number four, better posture. If you've ever experienced back pain from sitting at a desk all day, strengthening your core can help. A strong core can improve posture and make sitting and standing for long periods less uncomfortable. Number five, pumping and support of the organs of the body. In my opinion, this is the most important function of the core. A proper functioning core will support the organs and glands and allow for the torso deformation, which in turn pumps blood flow in and out of the organs of the body. Eugene Sandow said back in the late 1800s, you can't have healthy muscles without first having healthy organs and glands. Now, Paul Chek calls it the inner unit versus the outer unit. Physical therapist Diane Lee says local system versus global system. Osteopath Guy Voyer says Pete, prepare, imagine, and think versus damn, do, act, and move. All of these amazing therapists are saying the same exact thing. The core has two different units. The inner unit, the local system, or the Pete system of the core, is composed of the diaphragm, TVA, pelvic floor, and multifidus. The outer unit, the global system, or the DAM system, is the big muscles of the core. Muscles like the longissimus, the iliocostalis, the rectus abdominis, the hip flexors, and even the glutes. Before jumping into exercise, let's talk about how to actually engage your transverse abdominis. A lot of people make the mistake of simply sucking in their stomach, which doesn't activate the core muscles effectively. By the way, this topic is very controversial and I can save this for a whole separate video. But for now, here's what you want to do. Number one, take a deep breath in, then exhale and draw your belly in toward your spine. This movement should feel like you're bracing for a gentle push against your midsection. Now, if you notice that only above the belly button is drawing in, you most likely have a core dysfunction, which I can address in a separate video. You should be able to breathe while you're doing this. If you can't, you might be tensing too hard. Practice finding that balance between firm engagement and natural breathing. Once you've mastered engaging your core, you're ready to move on to exercises. But first, another controversial topic. You literally have upper and lower abs. If anyone else says otherwise, I'm sorry, they are dead wrong. Here is the proof. Embryologically and neurologically. Embryologically, when you are forming in your mother's tummy, the lower abs actually sprout from the pelvic floor to the belly button. And neurologically, the lower abs are innervated by the iliohypogastric and the ilioinguinal nerves. The upper abs are segmentally innervated by the nerves of T7 to T12. With that said, if you want to do true segmental strengthening, there are exercises for the below the belly button, and there's exercises for the abs above the belly button. Once you are strong segmentally, you can then combine the two of them together and perform a hinge type movement where you're moving above and below. On H3TV, I have a segment where I take you through how to safely strengthen all of these muscles. For this video, I will take you through the core exercises that I start all of my clients on. There's a reason for this. Most people seek me out because they are injured and have been through the medical system with no relief. Remember, you have three planes of body movement: sagittal plane, which is flexion and extension; frontal plane, which is side bending; and transverse plane, which is rotation. It is always safest to start in the sagittal plane, then move to the frontal plane, and finally start training in the transverse plane. Here are my 5 go-to exercises that I use to get my clients training their core. Now, the first exercise, or the first core exercise I give my clients, is the abs roll and unroll. Now, what we're doing with the roll and unroll is we're training the rectus abdominis to move the spine segmentally. Remember, you have 5 lumbar, 12 thoracic, and 7 cervical vertebrae. We want to be able to move that spine segmentally. The rectus abdominis attaches on the sternum and finishes on the pubic bone. So simply, when I start this exercise, I want to push my sit bone back, I'm gonna roll back, and I'm gonna roughly touch my shoulder blades, which is right behind my sternum, and then I'm gonna come back up again, and I'm always gonna straighten my spine. So if I give you 2 letters, I want you to think of it this way. When I start, my spine looks like the letter I. When I go into my roll, my spine looks like the letter C, and then when I come back up again, I go from a C to an I on every repetition. That's extremely important because now you're not going to shorten the rectus abdominis, which is going to ruin your posture. Now, if you can't do that full movement, you have a couple options. You can just go ahead and roll and unroll to what you can handle. And as you get better, you can go further and you can go back further. Another option is you could take a stretch band, tie the band to something, hold on to it with your palms up, and now actually let the band help you come back up again. It doesn't matter. Your goal is 3 sets of 30. You don't put anything on top of your feet, because if you put anything on top of your feet, it's gonna make you engage your hip flexors. Your feet should always be in contact with the floor. Now, the last thing I'm gonna say about the roll and unroll, it's extremely important that you breathe. So the proper breathing sequence would be inhale at the top, and I want you to exhale all the way down and exhale all the way back up again. So again, you inhale, exhale, 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 inhale, exhale, 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 inhale, exhale, 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 inhale. And again, this is the roll and the unroll, and this is the beginning of all of my ab and core programs. Now, my second exercise is the lower abs. Now, staying with the thought that safest is sagittal plane first, we're gonna do another sagittal plane exercise. And remember, I said that you have upper abs and lower abs. So this particular exercise is for the lower abs. Now, this is a very difficult exercise, so I'm gonna show you a progression to this. The first part of this is called a lower ab awareness. You wanna be on your back, and you wanna have your feet on the wall with your knees roughly at 90 degrees, and go ahead and put your head down, fold your arms across your chest. Now, if we're truly working below the belly button, the only thing that's gonna come off the floor is my sacrum, my L5, and my L4. And this is the movement. So basically, my knees are going up, down, up, down. So really what I'm doing is I'm doing a posterior tilt, neutral, posterior tilt, neutral, posterior tilt, neutral. Everything from the belly button up stays pasted to the floor, including my head. Now, I want you to do 30 to 50 repetitions. Now, what you want to do while you're doing the repetitions, if you want to challenge yourself, is you're starting to take less and less force into the wall. So it may be eventually just your big toes are on the wall and you're lifting sacrum L5, L4, sacrum L5, L4, posterior tilt, posterior tilt, posterior tilt. Now that's going to get very easy quickly. And how we progress this exercise is I push myself away from the wall, and now I'm going to make it harder. Bring one leg up, bring the other leg up, and go ahead and cross your legs. Now, in the beginning, if you want to put your hands on the floor, you're going to do the same thing. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, if your goal is 30 reps, 15 with your leg crossed one way and 15 with your leg crossed the other way. If that gets easy, just go ahead and take your hands off the floor and go up, down, up, down, up, down. Again, notice nothing from the belly button up is moving. I'm keeping my head down and my eyes down. The final movement is to let the knees bend. And again, if you want to come back to the hands, I go straight up, down, down. But the full lower abdominal movement is I would cross my arms and go up, down, down, up, down. When you finish, put one leg down and put the other leg down. And that is how we perform the lower abdominal core exercise. Now, my third go-to core exercise for my clients in the first phase is a side plank. Now, I'm not a huge fan of planks. However, I do like the side plank because I like to start strengthening my clients in the frontal plane. So this is going to be one of those movements where it's an isometric strengthening in the frontal plane before we go into the next phase where we actually start moving in the frontal plane. So just a couple things on the side plank. I want you to go ahead and go on your side. I want you to put your forearm on the floor. I want you to keep your palm down. And now, depending on your strength level, we can just play with physics. The more I keep my knees closer to my body and come up, the shorter of the lever arm I have. So if this is where you need to start, that's fine. And the better you get, the straighter you will take your legs away from you. Now, I will tell you, I always want you to feel like you're pushing your elbow into the floor to protect your shoulder. And then if you're gonna do a full length plank, I would really love you to be in front of a mirror, because when you look at yourself in the mirror, I want your head to be in alignment with your spine. So when you're ready to go, put your hand on your hip and you can go ahead and come up, and you want to form this nice straight line, this nice straight frontal plane. If in doubt, because what happens is so many people are rectus abdominis dominant, what they'll do is they'll come up and they'll have the rectus abdominis take over, and they'll actually go into the fetal or a crunch position because they don't want to use their obliques. So you simply could have somebody take a stick of some sort and hold it on your back and make sure you get the 3 points of contact. Make sure your head is back touching the stick, your thoracic spine and your tailbone, and you want to be able to manage this frontal plane movement like this. For my clients personally, the max I will have them hold a plank for is anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute. And make sure you do both sides. And that's my third go-to movement for my core exercises. Now, my fourth go-to exercise for the initial phase of core training is the horse stance. And here's why. With the horse stance, we have a lot going on. First of all, we're going to start working the transverse spinalis system, which is the rotational muscles. And remember, those are the most dangerous to work, but we're going to be working them in an isometric. Second of all, we talked about inner unit and outer unit. And when you do the horse stance properly, you integrate the inner unit with the outer unit. So now remember, the inner unit for the core is number one, the diaphragm. So when I do this exercise, I'm going to take a belly breath in. My belly's going to go down to the floor. I'm going to hold my breath, and then I'm going to draw my belly into my spine. That's going to be for the transversus abdominis. The third thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to contract my pelvic floor. That was the third muscle of the inner unit. You can tell your females to do a Kegel. You can tell your guys to feel like they're lifting their testicles or stop to pee, whatever you need. And then the fourth thing that you're going to do is you're going to barely pick up opposite hand, opposite knee off the floor. And because that's an asymmetrical pattern, what that does is that kicks in the transverse spinalis system, or the rotators of the spine. The other thing the horse stance does is, remember I said, it integrates the inner unit and the outer unit. When I go to pick up opposite hand, opposite knee, my lats kick in, my glutes kick in, my erector spinae kick in, and that is the outer unit. So if you do this exercise properly, you're strengthening the inner unit and you're coordinating it with the outer unit. And this is how we do the horse stance. Very challenging exercise if you want to do it right. Again, take a stick. It can be a broom handle. It can be a dowel rod that you get from the hardware store. Put that stick on your back. Get your 3 points of contact, which is the back of your head, your thoracic spine, and your tailbone. If you look in a mirror, you should have just a little space between your lumbar spine and the stick. And now here we go. I want you to bend your elbows and I want you to bend down, and my spine should be pretty flat. Now, I don't have a mirror here, so I can't really see myself in the mirror, but I'm hoping that I'm pretty flat. Now, I'm gonna take that belly breath in, my belly drop down to the floor. I'm gonna hold my breath. I'm gonna draw my belly up toward my spine. Notice that I did not change my spine angle whatsoever. Now I'm gonna contract my pelvic floor, and now I'm barely gonna lift my right hand and my right knee off the floor. I'm gonna hold and breathe for 5 to 10 seconds. And notice that stick did not go anywhere. This is not a balance exercise. This is a strength exercise. And then I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna repeat. Belly breath in, hold the breath, draw the belly up toward the spine, contract the pelvic floor, and I'm gonna lift right knee, left hand off the floor. I'm gonna hold and breathe for 5 to 10 seconds. I'm going to work anywhere from 5 to 10 reps on both sides, and that is my fourth go-to exercise for the core, called the horse stance. Now, my fifth go-to core exercise is the ever popular infant development exercise called the inchworm. Now, the inchworm is an interesting animal. It's truly a core exercise, because you will see that I'm gonna be using everything minus my arms and my legs, including my head. And the goal with the inchworm is to be on a mat and be able to push yourself down the mat, and then to be able to pull yourself up the mat. Now, caution at home, going down the mat is much easier than coming up the mat, but you'll get the idea. If you do the inchworm enough, you will feel a total core burn by the time you're done. Now, to do the inchworm, I would always say start going down the mat first. You're gonna lie on your back. You're gonna place your tongue on the roof of your mouth. That's really important because that kicks in the deep cervical flexors. You're gonna bring one leg up, you're gonna bring the other leg up, you're gonna cross your hands. You cross your arms. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into neck extension. And when I go into neck extension, I'm gonna bring my thighs toward my chest. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to push with my head, and I'm going to pull with my tail. Push with my head, pull with my tail. Push with my head, pull with my tail. So I'm going from neck extension to neck flexion, neck extension to neck flexion. I'm going from lumbar flexion to lumbar extension, lumbar flexion to lumbar extension. And when you coordinate that together, as you can see, that's going to be moving me down the mat. Now, to go up the mat, it's really the reverse, but not really. So to come up the mat, what I want to do is I'm going to push with my butt cheek and pull with the back of my head. Now, I would say when I'm going down the mat, it's almost like a 50-50 share between my neck and my torso, my glutes. Coming up the mat, I'm telling you right now, 70% of it's pulling with the back of your head. Now, what I do is I feel like I'm reaching, and I'm gonna pull, 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 pull. I'll pull with the back of my head, pull with the back of my head, pull with the back of my head. And as you can see, I am moving up the mat. And that is my fifth go-to exercise called the inchworm. Now remember, consistency is the key. Building core strength isn't about doing hundreds of crunches in one go. It's about training in good sequence and with the most effective exercises. Try to incorporate these exercises into your weekly routine, aiming for core workouts 2 to 3 times a week. Once you achieve consistency and strength in these 5 exercises, tune into H3TV's program called Training Your Core Muscle Safely, where I teach you many of the exercises I use with my clients.